This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 260, recorded on May 12th, 2016. Here at Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the Average Guy Guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the Average Guy TV studios here in a beautiful, although rainy, and we had, Shonna, did you see the pictures of the hail out in West Omaha like 2 nights ago?
I didn't believe it, but I did see the pictures, yeah.
It was like snow. Like they had bucket loaders taking chunks of ice away.
So weird.
Unbelievable. Yeah, we didn't get any here in Bellevue. We say it's the Offutt weather machine that keeps all that stuff from hitting here. But of course, we post the show with world-class show notes at theaverageguy.tv. You can also catch Home Gadget Geeks on our mobile app if you want to head out to homegadgetgeeks.com. Of course, available for both iPhone and Android. You big buttons, just click on them, subscribe, boom, you're in. We're on the new Google Play as well, too. So if you're using an iPhone or Android, you can get those both in iTunes or on the new Google Play Music. Available, just search Home Gadget Geeks. You can find us there. Subscribe and get this every single week. Most of you do. But if we have a new listener that's out there, we'd love to have you subscribe and get it done. Home Gadget Geeks is a part of the Geeks Network. Find this link to this show and many other great podcasts. By the way, we did a really good home server show last night. I know we're only doing those about once a month. But if you are interested, we had some really good stuff on Home Server Show last night. So go back, homeservershow.com, but you can find the link to that, thegeeksnetwork.com. Okay, we have got an interesting show. We're going to go way off the rails tonight, and we have Shonna Dorsey with us. Shonna is a good friend of mine from Omaha. We're becoming good friends. Can I call you a good friend? Is that okay?
I think we're really good friends, yes.
Okay. Good. We've been working together for the last couple, I'd say 6 to 8 months more, maybe the last year. You're a big deal here in Omaha. That's why I have you on, because you've become a gigantic deal.
Okay.
But nobody knows you, Shonna. So let's start with the personal stuff. Tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, those things. I think you grew up here, but tell us that kind of stuff.
Okay. Can you hear me okay, by the way?
Yep. Yeah, you sound great.
Okay.
Yeah,
so, yes, I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, born and raised, and I currently live. Now, this doesn't matter. I don't know why I'm saying this, but I live in the Old Market, which is like the coolest part of Omaha.
It's super cool.
It's my favorite. Yeah.
It's super. You didn't have any fire damage when you don't live in that part of the Old Market that burned down.
I do, but I saw it from my window and I took a bunch of pictures, which I'm not sure how I feel about that now that I say it, but I live close enough to see it, but not to have been impacted.
Well, good. That's good. That was a horrific. For those who don't know, M's Pub is a really famous restaurant here in Omaha, and they were putting in new, I think, fiber optic lines in the Old Market area. Hit a gas main and caught fire. There was an explosion in the building, burned the place down, and they had trouble finding where the gas was coming from for a while. So for about an hour and a half, the whole fire was just fueled by natural gas. Yeah. And then burn the place down. I think, are they going to rebuild? Is that what they're going to do down there?
I would imagine so. That's what do you call it?
Historical, yeah. So if you're from Omaha, and typically my other host, Mike Weger, he's another Omaha guy. That's very, as that was burning down, I was getting IMs on Facebook from folks who'd been in Omaha or had visited here, and they're like, not M's Pub, because it's such a famous restaurant. So hopefully they'll rebuild.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're from Omaha. You live in the Old Market. Give us did you go to school here in Omaha?
Yes, I did. So I went to elementary, middle, high school, and college here in Omaha, Nebraska. I left in my 20s and came back in my 20s and have been here since. So for about 10 years, I've been back.
UNO grad?
UNO grad. Yep.
University of Nebraska at Omaha, for those that are out of town. We just call it UNO. Nobody calls it that, though, by the way. It's UNO, right? But nobody says UNO.
Yeah, and I don't think so. They used to call it the commuter college, too, so I'm glad that it's lost that reputation. So, yeah.
And what did you study when you were at UNO? What was your degree?
I studied management information systems, both undergrad and graduate.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about so in the in between. We're going to talk about the interface school that you're working
Hmm.
at, that you kind of
Sure.
direct right now. You're the big deal over there. But what'd you do in between those two?
A lot of stuff. I went to Atlanta for a little bit and hung out. Went to Norway for a little while.
Well, how long were you in
Um,
Norway? That's pretty cool.
three, 3 or 6 months. I can't remember anymore.
Okay,
I think it was about three.
just kind
Um,
of a lost time in your
yes, your last 20s when you're like, I know everything,
just
and then you,
traveling, and you're not even a millennial, and you were doing that. So
according to you, I'm like borderline millennial.
one year you're an Xer, just like me. We have to claim that. We have to claim that. So some time in Norway, and
Yeah.
were these tech related things, or were you getting some traveling in?
Atlanta was tech related. I was working for the internet service provider Earthlink. I don't know if it's still
Oh,
around.
maybe little bits of it somewhere. Hmm.
Yeah, so I was there for a while, and then in Norway, I was literally just hanging out. It was not work. I eventually had to come back. I was like, wait, I guess I need to keep making
Make
money.
some money. Was that truly one of those like I'm gonna go find myself in Norway
It
trips
was just a
or
crazy time, just
yeah.
being a young, crazy person. And I'm just so grateful for the fact that I had the, man, what I don't know what to call it, but that I just was like, this is something that I need to do and or I want to do, and I just took the chance and did it. I kind of operate like that in my life, so
Yeah. No, it's good.
mhm,
I think, and you work with a lot of students, and so do
yeah,
I, and that's kind of
mhm,
where we've connected here in Omaha. I always encourage in our my demographic, is 35 to 55, it's sysadmin male, right? That's kind of my demographics. They all have kids, and my encouragement is save a little bit of money and send those kids abroad to
oh yeah,
study, right? I mean, that's
absolutely,
I think a super important part of their even if they don't study much
hmm,
when they get over there. I think it's a life-changing experience. Did you find kind of Norway as being kind of an eye-opening experience to get out of the country and see something? You grew up in Omaha and you probably saw the same in most cases the same 60 square blocks for
yes,
most of your life, right?
hmm.
You did a little time at UNO, but that's kind of in the midtown
I
area of
like how you
Omaha.
said I did time. That's
Well,
Jim Collison for you.
well, but that's kind of what in the Midwest or in some cases our
Hmm.
students end up growing up in an area and they never really get outside of it to see what the
Right.
rest of the world lives like. I spent some time in the military. I spent some time down in Panama, third world, right after we had removed Noriega out of as the president of the country, in turmoil, dirt poor, and you just don't realize how good we have it here in this
Yeah.
country, right? And now Norway's a little bit different. That's
Yes.
that's that's a first world country and very well, but I'm assuming a great experience for you to kind of get out of the country and see something different.
It was. It was, I think, the most interesting thing. So I had really interesting conversations with people. This was back in 2003. And I remember I was walking from where I was staying down to a market, and these guys stopped me and started talking to me, and they were Scandinavian. And they were like, "So where are you from?" Because they could tell, even with my bit of Norwegian that I spoke, they could tell that my accent was not, you know, from the region, right? So they were like, "Where are you from?" And I was said, "Nebraska." And three times they said, "You must be the only," and don't be offended, but they were like, "You must be the only black person in Nebraska." And I didn't understand it, so they had to repeat it like four times. And I could tell they were getting more and more embarrassed, but I didn't know why until
Yeah,
I heard what they were actually asking me. And I was
yeah,
like, well, actually, there's quite a few. It's not, huge,
yeah,
but, you know, but it was really a good experience, just super diverse. A great, great culture.
yeah.
Even 10 years ago, they had texting. Actually, that's 13 years ago now, but they had texting on cell phones, and we definitely didn't have it then. I was like, I don't understand. How am I communicating with this person?
I know. And how do we do it now, right? When we think about all the
Hmm.
technology that we have, and with Facebook and keeping up with it on phones, and I'm getting to the point where I can do most of my work on my phone.
Yeah.
Not all of it, but I can get
A
most
lot
of
of
it
it.
done.
That's so true.
Yeah. So came back from Norway, and then what have you done? So did you come back to Omaha?
Let me think here. Yep, Norway to Omaha. Yep.
Yeah. And then
hmm
what? Because like I've known you. I've always known you as the director of the interface school. So what was in
Yeah.
between those?
I like how we're getting all these questions answered here on Home Gadgets.
Well, we want to know who you are, and then we're going to
I
get
know.
you in a little bit. Uh-huh.
No, it's good. But after that, I came back and I was just thinking, what do I want to do with my career? Because I came back from Norway and I wasn't really excited about what I was doing before I left. When I was in Atlanta, I was like a supervisor at that time for that ISP that I mentioned before. Not super exciting. So I came back and I actually started working on a pre-pharmacy degree, or not degree, but pre-pharmacy curriculum to get into pharmacy school. And um, I also got a job as a pharmacy technician at Baker's near North 30th Street in Omaha, Nebraska. And I did that for about a year and a half. And what I realized is I love, 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 love helping people. But what I didn't appreciate as much about being a pharmacist, or what I understood about being a pharmacist, is that I was more on the side of not really what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, I'm thinking about this, but I just remember a distinct point when I felt that I wasn't really contributing as much. Like I'm giving a person medication and then giving them the instructions based on what the doctor said and what the pharmacist is telling me, but not necessarily empowering them in any way. Like it just didn't feel as impactful to me. And so I ended up back in tech, and I switched my major from pre-pharmacy to back to MIS, and found a way to, I'm sorry, not back to MIS, but I switched from pre-pharmacy to working on a master's in MIS.
Yeah.
So it was about a year of time, not wasted. I learned quite a bit. I learned that that wasn't my passion, but then went into the master's program in MIS and had a great experience. So at the very end of that program, we ended up working in a group to build an application for Project Harmony. And they're an Omaha-based organization, a nonprofit that helps kids who are victims of child abuse. And our student group actually built an application that was like a private YouTube for them. And by the end of the course, it was still in a prototype state, but the fact that we were able to build something out of nothing to meet these people's, or this organization's, requirements and potentially help some kids and a family, that was so huge for me that at that time I said, how can I take this experience and turn it into a career, into my job? And it took me 5 years. No, sorry, that's 2010. So Interface was founded in 2014. So it took me about 4 years to get to the point where I actually had a job, which is the job I have now, that allows me to help out the community and build things for people that matter, and in so many different ways. So we do build websites for companies with Interface, but our students are building their lives, and that's building the community and helping small businesses and other businesses in town. So I just I really love that. So
Yeah, no, and you're really good at it. I think you're in a sweet spot. When we think about interface and the interface school, if you were kind of give a purpose statement for that and what you're trying to achieve with that, what would you say?
it would be just really short. It would be build people who build communities.
And what kind of so talk about maybe a typical student and kind of how's the
Mhm.
program work and what are you guys looking for? What kind of programs do you offer?
So our typical student is a working professional who can't necessarily quit their job to go back to school and learn a new skill. So our classes are three times a week, nights only. So I would say about 80% of our students have jobs and go to Interface so that they can do both. What was the other question? Sorry.
And I can't remember. I'll just make up just make up another one. What I was trying to do is get to the point of give people a picture when we think of interface school. What
Yeah.
those are the kind of students you attract from a mission standpoint. At the end of the day, and let me say this part because this is what's important to me is that when we hire students, and I'm on the hiring end, right? So you're on the training end, and I'm on the hiring end. Although we do some training, and we're going to do some work together. We'll talk about it towards the end of the show. But we fall short. Oftentimes we fall short of those skilled technical workers to write code, right? To write Java, to write C Sharp, to do WordPress, to PHP, to do Python, all those pieces that we need. The city of Omaha, I've heard a number, something about 2,500 jobs we are short each year, and that in just that particular area of development. And so we import those jobs in, and certainly, and then I watch lots of kids as my kids have gone through school. I've watched a lot of American students come out of schools here in Omaha, Nebraska, and could be doing these things, but have not
Right.
gotten the right opportunities early enough or whatever. You and I are in sync. It's great as we've gotten to know each other. We're in exact sync from that. This show doesn't hear too much about it, but we'll talk some tonight about, I think, how to solve that problem, which
Hmm.
I think is super cool. But the web interface is cool, and why we bring it on Home Gadget Geeks is because what you're doing is building the front end. We have small businesses and startups. We have startups on our program every other month or so. We just had the guys from Ananobox who developed this VPN solution. They're 12 guys in a building in Chico, California. We've had guys from Shelfie. They take pictures of a bookshelf and they catalog those books for you and tell you if there's free or low cost versions of the ebook available,
Oh,
that
cool.
kind of stuff, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, really cool solutions. When we think about innovation, Shonna, how much beyond just teaching the code are you guys trying to do with innovation?
Yeah, so we're trying to just like kind of change the entire teaching model. So even from the instructor side, we are we pay instructors way above market. I was an adjunct at one time and really loved the experience. I love working with students, but unfortunately, teachers just aren't paid very much. So there are some cases where we'll pay an instructor like 30,000 bucks to teach a course, and to us that matters a lot because teachers are one of the most important assets in our economy, to be honest with you. So there's that side of it, which is innovative to us. In the training process itself, we are making sure to give students opportunities in many cases, not all cases, but in many cases, opportunities to work on real projects with real clients. And in most classroom settings, you don't get that option. You are listening to a lecture, doing homework that's predefined, and getting a grade based on predetermined kind of outcomes. And so we take a gamble every time we introduce a client because it introduces complexity, of course, and just a bunch of unknowns. But we think that that is so important for students to understand and participate in and to be a part of. And it just adds a lot of value to the experience. So there's that part. And one more thing is with the interface training model, it's 3 months tops, 15 weeks. That's 3 months, right? A
Mm-hmm.
little over three, a
Mm-hmm.
little over 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of that period, you graduate from the program and you are job ready. So it's not a year long, 2 year, 4 year commitment. It's 15 weeks. And the great thing about it, when you think about higher education, which I completely appreciate as an undergrad and graduate degree holder, um, having the experience that allows you to get a position, that allows you to work for a company that provides tuition reimbursement in many cases, is extremely valuable because it's great to not go into debt for your education if you can avoid to do so. So that's one of the other ways that interfaces, I think, help in the community overall.
Yeah, you just published a stat to your Facebook group that
Hmm.
some of your folks. What was the dollar amount? How many students and what does that equate to in
Yeah.
increased wages?
Right. So within the last 30 days, four students have reported a total increase in salary of over 120,000. It's about 122 and change, $122,000 per year increase in salary,
Yeah, it's a
and
nice little
that's
bump.
yeah.
Nice little 30,000 average per student to be able, and
Right.
sometimes there's a retooling process that goes into, right? A lot of
Yes.
students that are coming are in a role they weren't particularly, it's not really working for them, or they want to do
Hmm.
more, and so they can come and get the education in the, it's like night class, right? It's like night
Yeah.
school, right? From that
Exactly. It's just
standpoint,
like night school.
do
Hmm.
it while they're still in. I hate that word, by the way, but I think web interface or the interface school is in the real name interface the web school, right?
Yeah.
If we're gonna say it the right way,
That's the name. Yeah.
yeah, has that has this ability to kind of transform those workers.
Hmm.
I'm going to ask you to think about. Don't say it yet. I'm going to ask you
Okay.
to think when we think about technology. I'm going to ask you to think. What are some of the coolest stories that have come out of your students? Maybe as we think about that. I
Okay.
know it's only been a couple of years, but let's talk about you and technology. You're a
Okay.
self-admitted kind of non-geek in
None.
some
I
ways,
know.
but I
Yeah.
think technology, we're to the point now where technology is so embedded in everything we do. I think you admitted to me you just got a microwave. Is that true? How does that happen? How do you live, how do you live that long without a microwave, Shauna?
I know.
Are you
It's
eating
been
real
so many.
food? Is that the
Yeah,
problem? You're
I
eating real
eat
food?
real food that I have to cook and be patient to cook, and or I eat out. But this is one of the reasons why I don't have to work out as much is because I cook mostly everything.
Real food.
Yeah.
Which is what we should be doing, if to be honest. But there are, I'm sure there are home. You've got some, of course, cell phone, right? So you
Oh
use
yeah.
an iPhone, right? From that standpoint,
Hmm.
what do you think when you think about technology today?
Hmm.
Like, what do you think we're getting from a technology perspective? There's a lot of things we do we don't need, right? We're just doing
Right.
them because they're cool. But
Yes.
as you look at home automation or some of the technology around us, what are some of the things that get you excited about the future when you think about technologies that are existing today? What are some of those things that you look forward to or that you're using right now?
Okay, so I'm a very simple person. I will just tell you that up front. But I went to a conference last week in Las Vegas and I got this. Can you see it? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
All
Yep.
right. This multi like ended phone charger thingy. I'm sure it has a better name than
Thingy. Man, I should have worked with you before we started this. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So battery, does it have a hard drive in it? Does it have a does it have what else does it have? Or is it just a battery?
that. I think it's just a battery.
Have you used it yet, Shauna?
Yes, I have used it. So here's the funniest thing is that these things are excellent. I love them, but
Yeah.
I never keep them charged. But I am on my phone constantly. I get criticized by so many people. They're like, Shauna, you're not like really here. You're just on your
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah.
But I love these little battery devices. That's awesome.
Well, it's super necessary in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
For my phone, I go with a Mophie case for the iPhone,
I got
which is
that too.
you
So
got
I
one of
need
those?
Mophie plus this. That's like
Wow,
my life.
wow. And so, well, the good news is sometimes it's hard to get that lightning, right? You need a lightning
Hmm.
cable here for the iPhone. Well, when you put a
Yes.
Mophie on it, it turns it into a
Oh yeah,
micro
true.
USB, right? And so
Yes.
now all of a sudden those kits. Now what are on the ends of that? I'm really interested.
I know. Okay.
Hold that
Let's
back
see.
up. Let's take a look at this thing.
We've
So
got all
what have
these
you
little.
got there?
I've
So
got
you got the
old
old
school
school.
iPhone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So it's like, hey, sorry, I've got an iPhone 4.
yeah.
Then you don't make them feel bad. I think that's really cool that they didn't do that.
Right.
Then
And
you
who's
have
yeah,
Lightning
yeah.
and these other three things.
So micro, mini, and what would
I
the
don't know.
third one be?
Let's see, micro, mini. I don't know what this. You know what? It's actually two of the same.
Oh, okay.
They have the same number of pins. That's like if you're being super generous and you're like, oh, you need a plug in too. Here you
Yeah,
go.
I got one for you. Which,
Yep.
by the way, great etiquette at a airport is to have an extra either cable or an
Mhm.
extra outlet that when you plug in, you can divide that. Listen, you
Yeah.
make friends, right, at the
Like
airport when
I'm making like 10 friends. And also I'm not making the iPhone 4 person feel like a loser right there. That's
exactly. I don't know if
hmm
is that even around anymore? Does anybody have? I
yeah.
don't.
I know a couple
I'm
people
not.
that have
I'm
that.
not sure if they
So
do. So, you got
mhm.
a battery. Was that who sponsored that? I saw a brand name on the. Did you
um
get it at a counter or how'd they give it to you?
yeah, this is from CA Technologies. Oh, I
Yeah.
see. It's backwards. Got it. Got it. Yep.
Yeah. No. Well, it's backwards for you. We see it
Yep. Okay, perfect.
first.
All right.
So have you used it? I mean, are you carrying it around with you all the time?
I
It's hard to believe you're wiping
am.
out a Mophie in your
Yeah, I am though.
really.
It's not good. But yeah, I got this at a conference in Las Vegas last week, so they just were handing those out.
What else, when we think of technology,
Hmm.
certainly you're on your phone a lot and you've been traveling all around the country doing stuff, accepting awards. It's great. I see you everywhere. You're getting all kinds of props at this point. I told you you're on a magic carpet ride at this point, and so that's awesome. But
Thank
what
you.
else with technology? What are the kinds of things when you think of either travel or at
Hmm.
home, or what that you depend on? Or what do you wish was available that you don't currently
Yes.
have?
So one of the things I really like are the secure your space your own way situation, and that we can do that with cameras in our phones and just all kinds of like motion detectors and whatnot. I think that's so cool. so you can set up your own home security. I know a lot of people have been doing that for a long time, but I just recently heard about it, just like I just recently got a microwave. But I think that the home security setup options are incredible.
Yeah, and they're getting
Hmm.
better. We've been talking
Yeah.
about a couple weeks back, we had the guys from Ring.com, which is a device you put on your front door and it's got a camera on it. You can stick up these cameras all over your apartment. Now, I just saw a mobile one. I forget the name of it. I should have written it down, but
Hmm.
it's a device that looks a lot like an Amazon Echo or it's just a cylinder device and it's got a camera and it will motion sense in a whole room. And then
Wow.
it swivels around to kind of see what's going on in the room, and the camera moves, I think, side to side, up and down. And so those kind of devices kind of set it and forget it. When you think about often those times take cloud storage or they take physical storage for
Hmm.
all your stuff, like for all that storage stuff that you make, because you probably I'm making a doc, I'm saving it, presentation saving it. Are you
Right.
completely cloud at this point, or are you
Yeah.
saving anything local?
And yeah, I do a little bit of local saving, but not very much because I'm always on the go and I need to be able to bring stuff up wherever, whenever. So yes, mostly cloud. And I'm still like a huge fan of Dropbox. It works very well for what I do, and a lot of Google Drive. I like I host some of our in our free workshops that we offer. I use Google Drive for hosting because a lot of people are familiar with that platform. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
simplify that.
pretty easy to use. Same
Yeah,
reason we use Google
exactly.
Hangouts here. Hey, there's
Yeah.
some questions in chat real quick about
Okay.
Interface School. One, are you guys offering online classes or is it in person only?
All in person, 10-person classes, very small cohort. Yep.
Yeah, you're in some brand new facilities there too, right? You guys have a partnership with AIM, which is
Yes.
kind of is an
Hmm.
organization that's working with tech and startups and incubators and those kinds of things.
Yes.
Pretty nice facilities. Didn't you guys just renovate there in the Exchange building?
Yeah, we did. We did a little bit of renovating. Yeah, it looks students like it.
Yeah, and then
Hmm.
what about tuition? Is it one
Hmm.
price for everybody? You're not a state school, so it's not like there's in-state and out-of-state tuition, right?
Right. Yeah,
One
it's
price
one
for
price for
everybody?
everybody. Yep.
Yeah, cool. And what's the cost? If someone were to come and get
Hmm.
retooled and retrained, how much does that cost?
We've got two classes, right? So we've got a foundations class, like it's foundations in JavaScript. So learn to build a website like an Apple.com is the best example I can think of. That one would be 5,500. That and we have another class similar to it that focuses on WordPress development. That's also 5,500. And then we have one other specialization course on Java, which is $7,000. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
actually, that's the price of one semester of school here in
yeah.
Nebraska for the most part. I
One,
mean, it's actually a little cheaper, I think. I think.
right. And I mean, there are a lot of boot camps around the country as well. Some of them are as much as 15, 20 grand. And it requires you to drop out of the workforce. So one of the things that makes us different is that a lot of people can keep their jobs and keep training. So that's another huge benefit of it.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
folks they come after hours and they can
Yeah.
continue to keep their job and they
Hmm.
can retool and retrain and then do something. Do you have any situations where you've had organizations or businesses partner with you and
Yeah.
send their people to be trained and then they just go right back to where they were before?
Yeah, we have. So we partnered with a company that's pretty large in Omaha, First National Bank. I know they're larger in other markets too, but First National Bank partnered with us to send 12 people through our training, and they sponsored all the seats. And four of those individuals were actually existing First National employees who were not in tech. And through the training, they learned .NET, and many of them ended up in developer positions, including one who ended up a Java developer. So he took .NET training with us and ended up in Java development. So yeah.
Yeah. No,
Hmm.
it works out. You've had certainly with your students when we think
Hmm.
about all the students that I've gone through in the last couple of years. I'm sure you've got some real bright ones that you know. I mean, the fire is burning hot, and they're going to do some really cool stuff. Any in the time you've been doing it, any success stories or situations where guys or gals have come in? And
Hmm.
by the way, we need more gals doing this,
Yeah, for
so
sure. Hmm.
it'd be great to get some more gals doing this. But any bright shining examples of guys that have gone out or gals and gone out and really done something? Because I say guys
Yeah,
generically, but
I know what you mean. So
yeah, yeah,
folks,
yeah,
as we say in the Midwest.
yeah, folks. I say that all the time,
Hmm.
folks. So any examples like that just
Yeah.
right off the top of your head?
Yeah, so there's two that I can think of that really stand out to me. One is from 2014, and it was a woman who was a barista at a local coffee, not local, but a coffee shop in town. And she was making minimum wage at the time. And after her training course, she went through the first national training on a sponsored seat, ended up tripling her salary after the training, and then got a $10,000 raise about 6 months, I'm sorry, 3 months after she got her landed her new position. So that's really incredible. It allowed her to do a lot of different things like move out of her family's home and like her parents' house. So
Yeah.
that is very cool to me, just empowering a person. The other is another, well, I've got two more. Okay. So
Yeah.
one more is a welder who was just like, okay, I know what the top of this chain looks like, and I want to get into something that's more marketable and long term, has a few more long term options. So he took our WordPress course, came in as a welder, ended up getting a job as a software engineer for a government contracting consulting firm, something like that. But anyway, was able to transition into web development after 11 weeks with very little training prior or experience prior to the course. The final example is a dad who had two little kids. He would bring them to class sometimes. We had a space where he could have them kind of hang out during the class so they weren't disruptive or feeling like they were in the way or anything like that. But yeah, this dad was hardworking and just really trying to improve his situation and the lives of his kids as well. And he ended up almost quadrupling his salary after training. He took our 15-week Java course.
Yeah.
So just really, really cool stuff.
No, that's got to feel good when
It does.
you're, when you have those kinds of great stories. And this
Hmm.
is just one city in Omaha that where this is happening. That can certainly be multiplied. Any thoughts
Yeah.
to expansion as far as Des Moines or those kinds of things? You guys can you talk about it? But any
Yeah.
thoughts of growing?
Yeah, no, we're definitely looking at other markets outside of Omaha. So it's just a matter of finding a place where there's really solid employer support because that's important for this to work. And the talent base is there. So there's a few different factors that we consider before moving into another market. The other thing is when we do go into another market, we want to totally ingrain ourselves. So it's not just like Interface comes in and starts school and starts charging tuition. We want to start meetup groups. We want to help get more kids involved in tech. So I do a lot of that personally here. But whatever market we go into, we want to bring the whole community along in the process, even if they don't end up taking one of our 11 to 15-week courses. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to talk about kids here in just a second because
Hmm.
I think it's a dynamite topic. But Mark had asked a question in the chat room. Any recommendations for new college students in computer science or MIS tips for getting that first job? That's not necessarily your sweet spot in the sense because you're retooling workers and some of
Hmm.
those things. But you know the market, right? I mean, you're
Yeah.
really, really close to the market. And when we think
Hmm.
about that first tech job, what kind of advice would you give?
So I actually have had students who were computer science students come through Interface for one course so
Yeah,
that we
no,
could
I
kind
think
of
it's worth
speed
it.
up that process.
I
Yeah.
would recommend actually taking a whole semester and instead
Hmm.
of going to school, going to an interface school like
Yeah.
you're doing to really
Hmm.
focus on the code. They get really distracted during their college years with
Yeah.
what I call the liberal arts of computer science, which
Hmm.
is the math and the history and all those things they teach you. And they're great, right? They make us
Yeah.
great citizens. They don't make
Hmm.
us great developers,
Right.
unfortunately. And so I have a really big recommendation for if you're going to pay to go to school, I think it's worth it to take a semester and just because that's about what it'd be 15
Yeah,
weeks. Take a
totally.
semester and just dive in. Imagine having all day to write code and then come to
Hmm.
school at night. So that would be one of my
Yes.
recommendations. What else do you think?
I think that's a great recommendation. And just think about like what I was saying before. If you're able to get a job with a company after that training and they'll continue to pay for your education, that like takes the burden off your parents and frees up resources for other students, so that's the other thing that I always recommend. Do you mind if I grab a light here?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
No, go ahead.
hold on just 1 second.
Well, yeah, you bet. While she's doing that, yeah, one of the things we often see in the college space is that we just don't get enough code. And so oftentimes we see these students just really struggling, even after 4 years of a great education. They have spent so much time in all the other things that go into college. When we try to get them into the enterprise to just really write code, they can't do it very well. We have some exceptional students. Sean, I'm just kind of talking a little bit about what we see in the enterprise. We have some
Okay.
exceptional students that do the code anyways, but I am all for getting the kids involved in code early and earlier. Let's talk a little bit about that, Shauna. One of the things I think when we look at the city of Omaha, and I've gotten involved in the last 4 years in all the STEM organizations around the city of Omaha. I know them all. I'm on the search committee for this STEM coordinator position we're putting in. And what we've seen from a numbers standpoint is that from K to 6, there's great programs. We are
Mhm.
stacked in the city of Omaha. Some great when we think of some of the work that the Boys and Girls Club is doing, and some of those organizations where they're in the right neighborhoods doing the right things. We could always do a better job, but I think
Yeah.
they're doing a great job in
Yep.
some of those neighborhoods,
Mhm.
and the numbers are 50-50, and it's very diverse right up until about 6th grade, and then something happens in 7th grade, right? These
Mhm.
kids go off to junior high and we just lose them, right?
Yeah,
They kind of just drop off the face of the earth. Peer pressure kicks in,
for sure.
hormones kick in.
Yeah.
I think lack of opportunity kicks in. In other words, I think there's a big gigantic black hole where these kids don't have enough things to get involved in 7th and 8th grade, and they get
Mhm.
they get behind, and all of a sudden, by the time we try to capture them as freshmen or sophomores in high school,
Yeah.
that we've already lost them. They're not even listening to us anymore. What comment on that a little? Are you seeing something similar? As because you work with a lot of these groups too.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I was just thinking about, as you were talking, I was thinking about my own experience when I was in school. So I grew up in North Omaha. So it's one of the, if you're not familiar with Omaha, North Omaha, in many cases, or in some neighborhoods, I should say, is one of the poorest in our city. And so I grew up in that area, and I remember through about 6th grade feeling really supported by teachers and being in gifted programs and all that good stuff. But like you said, something happens at about 7th grade. You start thinking too much about boys or girls, whatever your preference is, and not focused on school at all. And yeah, I think it's harder for teachers to reach us
Yeah.
too, unfortunately. And so I definitely remember becoming distracted with other things, and then somehow turning back around. But it was definitely through mentorship. So I feel like the more that we can get involved as adults, even if it's just like an hour a month or whatever, but if there are a lot of us doing it, I think we can make a huge impact. And it's being there and letting those kids know that they have other resources in the community, people that care about their futures and their outcomes.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie, it's the guys and gals who listen to this show who should be
Hmm.
making the impact in this area. That we hold the keys to all this technology, and
Hmm.
we have the time and the disposable income and those kinds of things to help with these things. One of the things, and we should get involved. I'm just going to say, guys, you should be involved. Something in your community around technology. You should be giving back. One of the things Sean and I have been thinking about, and because I have this we see this kind of this negative vortex that happens in 7th and 8th grade. One of the things we're thinking about right now is, can we bring these 7th and 8th graders into the enterprise and give them instruction and keep them interested through these years through a weekend program that's an extended period of time? And how would we do that? We do a high school program at Gallup, and I'm going to mirror that program. Sean is going to help me with it a little bit, and we're going to try it out in a pilot program. One of the advantages we have in Omaha is we have two, I think, and maybe more, pretty good pilot or pretty good magnet schools when we think of our junior highs, right? So King Science in North Omaha, Mars in South Omaha,
Hmm.
right? And did I get that right? It is
Yeah,
Mars, right?
Mars. Hmm.
And that puts some emphasis on science and technology, and so
Right.
we've got kind of a predisposed population there. You've worked with them more than me. Is that assessment correct? Do you think that's a favorable area to go in and start something like
Yeah.
trying to keep these guys involved, and more than just taking the technology to the school, bringing
Right.
them into the job, right? Showing
Absolutely.
them what it really looks like.
Yep, absolutely. Like you have to make them feel like it's real and that it's a possibility for them because I remember being in school and just hearing a lot of people, like a lot of guest speakers, come and say, here's my job and here's what I do, and I'm like, I cannot relate to it. I don't. You're here doing a presentation on a PowerPoint. So getting kids into an environment where they can feel they're in the seats, they can see other employees around them. I think it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What's the youngest you've taught in web design. You've got kind of a web design class that you
Yeah.
do that gets them from zero. We always say from the couch to 5K, right? That's a
Yeah.
running program, right? Of getting
Hmm.
off the of running. In web, we always say couch to web development. What's the youngest that you've taught?
5. His name was Miles. He was hilarious. On the last day of class, he came in with one of those tuxedo T-shirts, because he was going to be dressed up that day. But 5. No, sorry. I think he was 6. He was 6, but
Oh
6
yeah,
was the youngest.
like that makes a big difference. But what could he do realistically? 6 years old. What
Yeah.
was what was he working on, and what could he do?
He, I, with that group, so it's like he was the youngest, but it was a 7 to 9 year old group. And our goal through the whole course, which was about, I want to say 8 hours long, and we met every Sunday for 2 Sundays, 2, 3, 4 Sundays, something like that, at the library. But the goal was for them to just get okay with working with HTML and CSS syntax. That was it. And so Miles, he one of the things he was most proud of, and I really love working with these kids. It's my favorite thing that I do, and many times I just volunteer my time to do it because I think it matters a lot. But his favorite thing was like changing the background on his screen from some solid color to like a brick pattern, and he was like, Shauna, look what I did. And you know,
Yeah.
just having the confidence to mess around with code is the whole point. And I give their parents resources at the end. It's up to them to kind of continue working through it. But the fact that they get okay with working with it it's crazy to me. So they go from not knowing what I'm talking about to when I'm like, did you close your tag? Did you, um, just different things. Are you missing a semicolon? Things like that. And they understand what I'm talking about it's wild. I love it.
Do you find that it takes them long to pick up on some of the code and get going, or do they pick it up pretty fast?
They pick it up pretty fast, but so I switch my format with kids, and I might do this for my adult classes too. I'm actually kind of working this in, but with my kid classes, I start off the first day with no computers, nothing, and all we're doing is thinking about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript as a skeleton, a body, if you will, with some colors and a jacket with colors on it, just something like that. So
Mhm.
what makes it unique? And then someone walking, and then we talk about it as a car with paint on it driving, and then we talk about it as like a cell phone skeleton with a case on it and texting. So even though these are not truly analogous to HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, it gets them thinking about these things in terms that they can understand or ideas that they understand already. And then when we get to the coding part, it makes more sense to them. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's my approach. I know there's no one perfect way to do it, but that's what I do.
What do you think from an age standpoint is the sweet spot? I mean, as we think about getting started, and
Hmm.
and you could say, oh, there's no age, but we know
I,
there's.
I agree that there is an age. I think there
Yeah.
is
What's the
because
floor, do you think?
I think it's about 7 or 8. And the reason why I say that is they have to be able to read and be patient and understand instruction. And I think any younger than that, it's a little bit challenging. But I guess the caveat is that I don't teach using like Scratch or some of the other kind of like the tools that make it really easy to grasp those concepts. I teach 6-year-olds the same as I teach 60-year-olds.
Yeah, the same structure,
Same
same.
structure, except
Yeah.
for that I'm doing like whiteboards with the kids.
Right.
But outside of that, the structure of the courses or the workshops are the same. So
Yeah. Yeah, and you teach on weekends
yeah.
I mean, you kind of give up your weekends too. Talk a little bit about what you're
Hmm.
doing with those weekend programs.
Yep. So every other Sunday we've got a community. What would you call it? Like a learning center? Is that right? Or
The
do
do
space?
space?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very, very unique from a tech
Yeah.
standpoint. If you and I think if you just Google Do Center, DO
Hmm.
Center Omaha, our local community college, Metro Community College, has really invested in. And Shauna, that first time I was over there was you talked me into doing some judging, and I went over to do it, which was a blast, right?
It was fun.
It
Hmm.
was a blast. But they have taken an old Borders, right? I think it was
Yeah.
a Borders
It was the
bookstore,
borders.
2 stories, and turned it into a complete tech space. So
Hmm.
Macs and PCs on the first floor. Second floor is configurable. You can move the tables around. You can kind of get, you could create great workspace. You could do, I mean, all kinds of agile type stuff, and great technology. We think of junior
Great
college sometimes or
technology.
community college, and you
Yes.
think, oh, okay, oh crap, you have Dells from 15 years ago. It's kind of crap. No, they've got some, and I can, you told me, I think you told me, or someone told me, I can access that with a library card. Is that right?
Actually, well, you need to get a DoSpace membership card, but it's
Yeah.
all free. Like all of their programming, everything is completely free. And like you said, all of their equipment is brand new. They've got great learning spaces. It's just an incredible resource for the community. But we partnered with them to offer free intro to web development workshops every other Sunday in Omaha. So we do like an intro to HTML and CSS, and then the following month, introduction to jQuery, and then the following month, introduction to like a front end framework. Our current framework is Bootstrap, so we just kind of build on each of the skills every
Yeah.
month.
Is
Yeah.
everybody's framework Bootstrap? I hear that. I hear that everywhere. That's kind of become.
No, there's a
No.
lot of good ones. There's one of my friends introduced me to Semantic UI. There's that. There's there's one called Foundation. I believe I don't use it anymore. I used it a long time ago. But Twitter Bootstrap is the most popular according to them. But I like it a
No,
lot.
it's super popular. Our kids
Hmm.
use it in the high school program. It allows them to get a lot farther in development, a lot
Oh yeah.
faster. And
And
so,
in design, you know, that's the huge thing is that it makes pretty websites. And I am not a good designer, in my opinion. I just think there's people who are excellent at it, and I'm not one of them. But it allows me to feel like I kind of know what I'm doing on the design side.
yeah, it's a great. This Do Space is a great space. One of their Tuesday tech tips is 50 Minecraft tips you may not have ever known. I mean, these
Nice.
guys, they're digging in. I mean,
Yeah,
this is not your typical community college boring. I mean, this
it's
is not your
awesome.
father's community college, right? I
Right.
mean, they're building up on the in the North O campus too, right?
Oh yeah.
Do you know what's going on up there? They're putting in some major construction up there.
They are. They're doing a lot with construction. I know you just said construction, but like construction degrees, I believe. And they're also building just a tech, kind of a tech slash business sort of a building, a lot of different things like that.
It's
Where,
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
they've really put some money into the infrastructure. They also have a 3D printer out there, right? I think I saw a
yeah,
big, gigantic 3D printer, and you can
yes.
bring a recipe in, and I imagine you're paying for any of those things that you're using. I need to go
Yeah,
down
I'm
there.
not
Is a
sure.
Sarpy County resident? Can I get a DoSpace card and work out of there? How does that work? Do you know?
That's a great question. So, you know, I don't work for DoSpace, but you
Oh,
can
right,
totally like go
right.
down there and
Okay. So
see.
you're just shirking. You're just throwing that responsibility off. I don't have any idea, Jim. Stop talking about DoSpace.
I love
Um,
DoSpace. You should totally go down there and get yourself and your kids, your family a membership. It's a great, great space for sure.
Well, and I should do a podcasters meetup down there. That would be
You
probably the
totally
perfect space
should.
to
Yes.
gather everybody together. It is kind of one of those kinds of spaces. When we think
Absolutely.
about you kind of you didn't answer my question I think earlier when I talked about no we got sidetracked with some questions
Oh,
in
okay.
the chat room, but when we think about technology that you're hoping for or wishing for in the future, when we think about
Hmm.
all these things that you've seen a ton of this stuff, we know you don't own an Amazon Echo, and everybody goes like, "Thank God," because Jim's not going to talk about the Echo. I talk about that all the time. What would you hope for, or where do you hope the future brings from a technology standpoint?
Can I ask you a question? How about, is that fair?
Yeah, no,
We'll
right on,
reverse the podcast.
right on.
What technology should I be excited about? Maybe those in the chat rooms.
Hmm. All right. While the chat room is filling in some things about what they think, they're about 30 seconds behind, so they'll start filling in what they think is important. So I'm going to tell you at this point, I think there's let's just say three technologies I think that become really practical and very important.
Okay.
One is AI. I think we're finally to a point where artificial intelligence matters. We see it in Siri and some of these technologies that we have, and so the concept of being able to talk to and get answers back and have
Hmm.
products that are helpful with AI. I think that's one. Two, I think, and some of this overlaps a little bit, but two is just raw home automation. In
Mm.
other words, bringing things to your space, turning lights on and off, making things more energy efficient.
Yes.
Technology is really good at that, right? It's good at understanding data and making decisions based on data and usage patterns and some of those things. And it's a perfect use for technology to think about our home automation space. You mentioned earlier with security cameras and
Yes.
some of those kinds of things. I think we have thermostats now. We have, we know doors open. We have proximity sensors to know if I'm in the room or not in the
Right.
room, those kinds of things. So I think 2 is home automation. And then I think 3 is driving automation.
Okay, so I don't know about that. I don't know that that's a great thing.
Why? Why? What,
Wait,
the
sorry, you're
driving?
talking about autonomous vehicles.
Autonomous
Okay.
vehicles. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's cool. And this is probably going to be weird maybe, but I just am like, my car is too computerized, you know. I'm just like, what if? Okay, here's one thing that's irritating to me about my smart car, if you will.
Yeah.
I need to take it in to get service, but the when I play Pandora or what's the other one that people really use?
Spotify.
Starts with an S. There it is. Spotify. Yeah.
Spotify.
Spotify, iTunes, Pandora. Sometimes my car or my little radio player gets confused or it kind of locks up on the last song, so I never know what song is playing unless I look at my phone, which is really dangerous when you're driving. And I'm like, why do we have this?
Yeah, but Shauna, imagine with self-driving vehicles, imagine the work you could recapture in the
Oh my
car,
gosh, I know. I'm so excited
right?
about that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, on that topic, I'm very excited about being able to continue to work in the vehicle and not be, don't want to be a hazard to other
Right.
drivers for
Right.
sure.
So your complaint is just that it's crazy to like it doesn't work sometimes, right? It doesn't, is that your complaint?
Yes.
Well, hey, so that's totally true in a lot of cases when we think about new
Hmm.
technology. I mean, look how long it really took us to get Windows working right, or really to get the modern OS to work right, right? It's
Yeah,
still,
true.
you know, I think now we used to talk, there were all kinds of tech shows about the operating systems,
Hmm.
and they've all pretty much for the most part gone away because it's boring because it works in a
Right.
lot of cases. Now, Windows 10 may be a little bit different as they're trying to completely retool that, but well, I think sometimes these technologies get mature and they get boring, and
Right.
they start working, and
Hmm.
then now I think we absolutely have some hurdles to go over. I've got this little Amazon Echo that sits right here, and sometimes I have to shout at it, and then sometimes it responds to anything, and you're like, hey, no, I didn't say anything. Sometimes you try and ask it to bring up a playlist and it brings up the wrong one. You
Right.
might want this one and it brings up that one.
Hmm.
So I think I think we're still a ways from it. Mark says in the chat room, he says, I'm not looking forward to autonomous cars. I enjoy driving, especially with a stick. There is something
Oh,
about
true.
driving your
Yeah,
own
I like
vehicle.
driving a stick. That is
I think
awesome.
with an autonomous car, you could take it over and it could, that would be fine, but it's not as efficient, right?
I'm just laughing thinking about like a person getting into an argument with their own car about who's in charge.
That might be true. That might be true, you know? Because you're not as efficient as the machine is, to be honest, right?
That's true.
This machine's always going to, well, I shouldn't say always. Probably in a lot of cases, the machines. Here's what I'd love. We live in Nebraska, and it's 8 hours to Chicago, right?
Hmm.
8 hours to Denver, 3 hours to Kansas City. I hate all those drives.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hate them, especially Denver. Like I can't. Chicago's not much better, to be honest with you. The
Hmm.
rolling hills of. I would love just to be able to get on 80,
Hmm.
get in a convoy of computer locked cars that are all going the same
Okay,
speed
yeah.
and are drafting,
I kind of love this
that
so
are
far.
that are just feet apart from each other, that
Hmm.
lock in, and I can just quit at that point. I can
Yeah.
take my hands off the wheel, pull out my cell phone, and start working.
Okay,
Now I'm
I
still,
actually think that would be pretty incredible.
yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah. I mean, imagine you get better gas mileage, you
Yeah.
could do it safely. In
Hmm.
in a convoy scenario, everybody would be drafting, so you wouldn't have the wind resistance type
Okay.
deal.
Yeah.
I think it's safer. I mean,
Hmm.
we're starting to see some of these vehicles be able to now respond to obstructions at a lot faster than the human. I know when I'm driving across Nebraska, I'm so tired in most cases. I'm rubbing my eyes and slapping myself trying to stay awake, right?
Hmm.
And so it's one of those things that I'm all for it. So Emily says she just had a flash forward to my daughter complaining to her college friends one day, Yeah, my mom still drives her own car. That's so lame.
That's gonna be me. My kids, whenever I have them, they'll be like, "My mom," because I'm gonna get rid of this microwave again. My mom just got a microwave or whatever
Yeah.
heating food thing there will be at that
Well, we're
time.
kind of making fun of you for just getting a microwave. That's happening behind the scenes for you. Just getting
I know, it's so ridiculous. I know.
yeah. Yeah. What about AI, and when we think about AI and home automation, anything in those areas? You talked about home security. How comfortable are you with talking all the commands to your phone or, what have you?
How comfortable am I?
Yeah. You use it a lot or not?
No, I
No?
don't. I've got, what is this, a 6S, I want to say. I don't really. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. What was the question?
Shauna, we're not even drinking wine.
I know. I'm just trying to understand what we're talking
No,
about.
the AI. So the computer, um, the ability to talk to your phone and have it get things done for you. Are
Yes,
you using your phone? Your six has all that capability. Are you using it for
I
that?
am not using
And
that.
why not?
To be honest with you, and I know I can be honest with you guys here,
Yeah.
I did not know it could do that.
Really? So
No, I
how?
was. No,
Yeah. So how do you get this far? So push that button down, and then Siri comes on, and you say, "Show me the weather," right? And it
I've
pops
never
up.
said that.
Really? So let me
Never.
ask you this.
Should I do it right now? Do you guys want me to do it for the first time?
Yes, so hold that button down.
Okay,
Get your phone out.
you
Hold
got
that
it.
button down. And then a little you're messing with me, aren't you? You've
I'm
done
not.
this
I'm
before.
serious.
Come on, you've done this before. All right, hold that button down and
Okay.
a little thing will pop up on the bottom
Yeah.
and it says I'm ready, right? And
Yep,
then just
she said.
say
Actually, I'm annoying her because she keeps saying, yeah, yes, yes, yes.
yes
Okay.
and then ask a question.
Tell me about the weather.
Okay?
Oh, yeah, that's super nice. Okay.
Wow. It's something new right here on Home Gadget Geeks. Hey, it's Shauna, you're the perfect. This is why I started the network of the Average Guy.tv, was to get the average person using technology. So
See, there
I've
you go. I'm
achieved,
the average guy right here.
or gal, or
Or,
folks,
yeah,
the average
I'm the
folks.
average
I think the average folks.tv was taken when when I got when I got to get the site. When we think of, so we talked about AI, we talked a little bit about home automation, we talked some about autonomous cars.
person.
Any other technology, is that when you think about the stuff that you use, or any cooking, like we've had chefs on who use cooking technology. Are you using, you're apparently you're a big cook because you don't have a microwave. So
Oh man,
any
I
technology that
have
you're
one
using
more.
with your food?
No. So I cook the same thing all the time.
Do
I
you?
found, yeah, 3 years ago, I'm like, that is the meal for breakfast. So it's,
That's it. Cereal. You come home, it's
yeah,
peanut butter and jelly
I'm serious.
sandwich.
When the time comes where it is socially acceptable to like wear a uniform every day, that is me. I'm like the plain Jane.
Same thing every day.
Oh yeah, I'm so
Yeah.
happy in that space. Just like
Yeah.
keep it simple.
Yeah. So clearly see in the chat says, Jim, thanks for a fun show. I think class with Shauna would be a lot of fun. That's Dawn actually is behind that. But you have fun when you're teaching your classes? Is that a
I
fun?
cannot tell you. I love it. It's. So running a business is difficult, for anybody who's tried to start a new business. It takes a while to get it going and all of that stuff. But one thing I'm very comfortable in, or a spot I'm very comfortable in, is teaching, and that is totally makes it all worth it. So I love it.
Yeah, and you get to do a lot of it, although you're trying to do a little bit less and get some
Yeah.
folks in to do a little bit more, right? I mean, you're right now, you're kind of, did you start Interface by yourself, or was there a partner?
Yeah, I started Interface with four others, just really talented people. So we're five co-founders, and I am the one like day-to-day operations management person. So
And probably chief promoter,
chief
right?
promoter, chief HR.
Yeah, doing all that
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
getting the word out. And
Hmm.
what are you hoping? So between now and the end of the year, what would be a perfect ending for Interface as we think about, the next 6 months?
Yeah, good question. So it's absolutely always, full of classes with talented and dedicated students. Like that is uh, just an ideal spot for us always. And then as we look at scaling into other markets, which we'll be able to talk about more in the next few weeks, just making sure that that's executed well with a solid support team. So just getting more, support for students and having the full, I'm sorry, just a good experience all through the rest of the year. So
Yeah.
talented students scaling well and all of that.
And what kind of advice would you give to somebody like me who I might be a listener of a show like this? I'm not involved in the I'm a tech guy. I'm not involved in the tech in my community in any way. I'm not getting the opportunity to help out students. If you were to say maybe one thing or one or two things of how folks can get involved in their communities, because we reach, bunches of different countries in doing this.
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
So I'll just tell you a quick story about me. Like I'm not super technical, but I have been able to make a pretty big impact in our community of Omaha, Nebraska, of about 500,000 people. And I think that you don't have to have a lot to do a lot, to be honest with you. So just taking your talent and making yourself available as a mentor is awesome. Even if you're kind of like, all right, I'm not going to start a school and I don't have time to start a meetup necessarily, but even checking in with a local school and volunteering as a STEM mentor would be excellent, an excellent start. So, and it's
Yeah.
important the kids need it. Yeah,
Start small. And
always.
work
Yeah.
your way into it. Find that spot.
Hmm.
Victoria Novak, do you know Victoria?
Yeah,
I
I
think
do.
she's taking a
Hmm.
class from you. She's out in the chat room. She says I'm taking a web development class with Shauna right now,
Yeah.
and she makes it very easy and she's very approachable. Oh, that's so
Thank you,
nice.
Victoria. Yeah, I just, after doing this a while, I kind of felt like there were some cases where developers would try to make development seem like just this rocket science thing that you have to know it all or you don't know anything. And so I think it's important to make it accessible to people, and that's one of the things that I try to do. So I'm glad that Victoria feels that way. That's awesome.
Yeah. You know what we
Hmm.
should do? So I've got podcasters who work on WordPress all the
Hmm.
time, and you have WordPress people who need
Yes.
real things to do.
Yeah.
We should find a way to connect, or podcasters who are getting started
Yeah.
and developers who are getting started to help those podcasters build these websites that
Hmm.
they can, we should think about. I've been trying to figure out this way to get podcasting in and going and interface, not from necessarily creating podcasts, although that would be cool.
Right.
We create a podcast for you, but when I found out you were doing WordPress, I was like, oh, there
Hmm.
has to be a way to get to get some real work, because that's you're looking for that stuff all the time, right? You're
Oh
looking for
yeah.
stuff for real students to really work on, right? Does that sound like
Totally. So
something that
let me
would
tell
work?
you, like, here's an
Yeah.
example. Yes, let me tell you real quick about an example of a project we're about to work on, and we've never done it before, but it's so cool. But our students are going to build a web application that kind of acts like a mobile application in our Java class, and it's basically like you're walking around this specific area of town, and there's little landmarks throughout the space. So there's a Google API that acts like GPS, and it works with front end application. So that's what we're going to build for one of our clients. And I just think that's so cool that we can take what the students are learning, extend it with these real projects, and they have real projects to talk about when they go into interviews and all of that. So yes,
Yeah.
in short, we would love to talk about.
We'll have to figure out a
Mhm.
way to do that, because I have all these podcasters and they suck at WordPress. And so they do. They're just terrible. They want a podcast. They don't want to write. They don't want to do WordPress. They just want a podcast. And yet
Uh-huh.
you're teaching. I mean, when I found out you were like teaching WordPress, and
Yeah,
a quarter of the web runs on WordPress
that's
now.
right. That's right.
I was like, oh, hey, wait a minute. We could probably make a connection. Mark asks, any plans on teaching more emerging technologies like mobile app development?
Yeah, we have an Android class coming up later this fall. I guess one of the points that we focus on is what technologies are employers looking for. So I know in 2014 we ran an Angular JS workshop
Hmm.
that no one signed up for because no one in Omaha was using it, but a lot of our developers in town were like, "This is the coolest thing ever. We should totally teach this." So we offered it, and no one signed up, and so we try to just match our offerings with what the community actually needs. But there are so many cool things that we could teach, but we just try to make sure it fits the market. So
Yeah. So
yeah,
Emily in chat says, "Yep, WordPress scares me. That's why I use Squarespace." But
yeah,
then again, there's those awesome plugins that I'd love to get, but I have to bite the bullet and switch to WordPress. And yeah,
we
that's
should
it. That
talk for sure.
is a common. Yeah, I mean that is a common in podcasters. They almost always land either on WordPress or on Squarespace. That's kind of
Okay,
the
yeah.
those are kind of two. And really with your JavaScript, right?
Hmm.
Squarespace would be. I mean, you could really do some things if you understood JavaScript. I know on
Yeah,
Squarespace
totally.
you can it's drag and drop, but if you can code, you can make Squarespace do some amazing things.
Yes. Yeah, I love web development. It's just so incredible to be able to build something out of nothing. I was just showing some of my developer friends a project because I don't ever want them to say about me that those who can't do teach.
Yeah.
So
You afraid of that? Is that what you're
yeah, a little
saying?
bit. So I
Yeah.
like keep working on little side projects, but
Right.
one that I recently worked on was using media queries in CSS and two JavaScript libraries that were for what do you call it? Two different slideshows because this client of mine had a need for a slideshow that looked one way on a laptop and a different way on a mobile device, and I just couldn't get there with the same jQuery plugin. So with the media query, I was able to have two on the same page that just turn on and off based on the size of the screen, which is
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah.
And then the part that I still don't understand, and I'm trying to look into my code to figure out how this is actually working, but both sliders are on the same timer and they work on the same slide. So no matter what size screen I go to, they are always on the same slide. So it doesn't start over
Yeah.
if I hop to a different screen
Mhm.
size. So
Yeah.
anyway, I love
Yeah.
it. It's just
Cool.
cool the things that you can do. I love
Yeah,
it.
Don asked you, Shauna, what would be your suggestion for where a student should begin
Hmm.
who has no background in tech?
Um, so if it's, let's say if you wanted to start online, Code Academy is one of the best free resources out there. And is he or she in Omaha?
I don't know. I don't think so, but Don, if
Okay.
you throw that in the chat, wait, give it 30 seconds and he'll be there.
Okay. I'll just answer it though for
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
are in Omaha, the Omaha Public Library offers lynda.com absolutely free to members. So that's another
Oh, I
great
didn't know that.
resource. Yeah. Yep,
That's
with
great.
your membership to the library, you get Lynda for free. So there's that too. So those are two great resources for just starting online on your own time.
He
And
said
then,
northeast PA.
oh, okay. Okay. So,
But you know what? A lot of cities are being progressive this way.
yeah, good.
And I would just check in with I would check in with the local library. Oh,
Mhm.
you said that already. I would actually I would Google code school for your city. So put
Yep.
in the name of the city and code school. And
Mhm.
there may be some opportunities there. And then there's clubs, there's meetup
Yeah.
groups. I mean, if we're talking young students, fifth or sixth grade, oftentimes there's a robotic
Yeah, true.
offering in a school nearby.
Mhm.
I think the key is to keep them engaged in junior high. This is the
Yeah.
challenge, is to do some things in junior high. We applied for a grant and we didn't get it, but the idea was to start some coding programs in junior highs here in
Mhm.
Nebraska. And I didn't get it. I'm kind of glad I didn't. It would have slowed me down. I think some of the things we're doing we can activate on very, very quickly.
Yeah, true.
State money would be nice, but I don't think it actually costs all that much to do what we
Mhm.
do, right? And so we're going to host some of those things at Gallup. But I would say in your communities, reach out into call the chamber and
Mhm.
say, hey, what's going on? What do you guys know? I think you'll find out there's more things going on than you think.
For sure.
Yeah. So cool. Some great questions indeed.
Mhm.
Shauna,
Did you want to talk about our project real quick?
which the junior high one in
Yeah.
detail?
We're
Yeah.
always, just so your listeners know, one of the ways that I describe what Jim and I do is we scheme for good. We're always like trying to figure out cool ways to help people out.
Superpowers. That's what they are. They are superpowers. Well, what we're hoping to do is Shauna's team is going to select eighth graders from King
Mhm.
Science, one of our technology magnet schools in the area, but it's in that part of North Omaha. And we're hoping to then get those students to join us on Saturday mornings, 9 to 1.
Mhm.
We'll integrate them in with our high school students so they'll see presentations and get an opportunity to see what our high school kids are doing. Shauna will teach them some of the web
Yeah.
development stuff that she's teaching. So reuse a lot of the material she's already doing, and we'll put the kids through a 6 week in the fall and a 6 week in the spring program. Have some things time in and see what happens.
Yeah.
They'd be too young to hire when they come out. With our high school kids, we put them in an internship program. But
Hmm.
come March of next year, we'll have some data, and we're actually building a platform where we can kind of track the progress of these kids. So we'll throw them in our tracking to get some of the data out of it. But that's kind of the premise. Let's see what happens when we bring some of these kids in and put them in a real world situation and let them code.
Yeah, it's super exciting. And I know that it's important for Jim and it's important for me to try to reach kids who are underrepresented in our adult workforce. So we're like trying to get them young. That's
Yeah.
what we're up to.
Yeah, well, underrepresented is key.
Yeah.
As we've found, as we've opened up our high school program, I have no problem getting the kids in the right parts of town that have all the right education. And as we try to reach into some of those sectors where that's not the truth, and actually Gallup sits here in Omaha, if you know the geography of Omaha, Gallup sits right in the heart of downtown, and north, south, and central are underrepresented. Is that the right way to say it? They're underrepresented students in those
Hmm.
areas,
Yeah.
and we want to reach them. It's our goal. Like, how do we get this done in the next 15 years? How do we change the equation so that it's when I show a picture of my students, it's a different diversity number,
Yeah.
not just in color, but in
Hmm.
gender as
Yeah.
well. How do we get the girls to stay? Because
Yeah.
right now that they're very underrepresented in a lot of computer science programs.
That's so true. And even at Interface, like when we first started in 2014, our very first class was 100% male, all about 25-ish years old, all white male. And that is what it is. By the fall, we were about 60% women participating because of the First National Bank partnership. And now we average about 30-ish percent. Still low on the minority side, but we're working on it. But yeah, it's an interesting
Yeah,
challenge.
yeah, no, it's a good challenge. It's one that I'm
Yeah,
excited to take on, and
me too.
it's
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 fun.
it's one where I feel like we're in the right place at the right time, doing the right things, and we've got a real opportunity to make a difference in this. I like my odds, of going in. I think we got some good folks behind us, and there's really good support in the city of Omaha for this, and so I'm excited about what's going on at UNO. We have a world-class zoo that has a world-class STEM
We've got
education
the
program.
best zoo. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not just a zoo to go see the elephants, which
Right.
everybody's crazy about because we just got some new elephants in our zoo. But these kids get a chance to go to high school there, and they have a science program for
Hmm.
the students that they can graduate from the zoo school, which is really really cool. And so one of those, Shauna, I'm going to be honest, that's one of the things living in Omaha for me, I'm super proud of, is that we have this really progressive, in some areas, we've got some really progressive thinking going on. I
Yes.
think we've got 10 or 15 years of really good executing to do to
Agreed.
pull some of this stuff off, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we still have a lot of work to do, which is exciting because I have to make this to my retirement.
Yeah.
So we've got about 20 years to get there. And I think we can. I honestly think we can do something. It's one of those kinds of things, and I think other people can too. I think
Yeah.
there's lots of tech in the folks that are listening to me now. There's lots of tech out there that's superpower that's not being used for good, and I
Yes.
love to see. Now I know there is some. So what I want to hear from you this week or in the next week or whenever you hear this, if you're one of these tech guys, gals, folks, whatever we want to call it, and you're using your superpower for good, Shauna and I want to hear about it. So send us an
Hmm.
email. Pictures would be awesome. Jim,
Pictures.
yeah,
Yes.
pictures would be
Hmm.
awesome. Jim at theaverageguy.tv. Send me an email. Put some pictures in it. Whatever. Tweet them if you want. Jay
Hmm.
Collison on Twitter. If is there a Twitter account for the school, or how if
Yeah.
people wanted to tweet you, how would they do that?
So me directly is Shonna underscore Dorsey. Or should I spell that?
Yeah, no, yeah, spell your last name. Well,
Well, the
spell the
first
whole thing.
probably.
Yeah, that's probably more right. Shonna, right?
Yep,
Underscore.
SHONA underscore DORSEY. And then Interface School is the Twitter interface.
Yeah, interface. Just
Yeah.
that. Did you name it?
No.
No. So who named it?
We actually, it was a group effort. So we had like 10 different company
Everybody
names.
picked a letter.
We
It
were
was
all
like
like, yep, let's
letters
go
on the
with that.
fridge.
Sounds super good. And it makes sense because we're interfacing with the students. It's meeting face to face.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
so Don, put the Twitter account, and I'll include that in the show notes as well
Cool.
if you want to do that. But again, take a few pictures if you're using your superpowers for good. We would love,
Yeah,
I would love to hear about some of those things and really celebrate them kind of here on the program. And so again,
absolutely.
send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. Shauna, anything else that I left out that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I would say if you're not using your superpowers for good, start ASAP because you owe that to this world of ours to
We need it.
use your talent for good. Totally.
Yeah, no, we totally need it. And,
Hmm.
we started off the conversation by saying that, land of opportunity, and you went to Norway and opportunities outside the United States, blah, blah, blah. We've got some great opportunities right here in the city you live in,
Yeah.
right at your front door. And
Hmm.
I just try to get involved as I can and any help anywhere I can with my tech all the time. I get questions from our church or neighbors or friends or whatever. Help me with my tech, And there are some community things. I didn't start along these lines, but there's just some great community things that you can jump in and get involved in, and some places that you can help.
Yeah, start
And
small.
start small and work your way in,
Start
and
small, dream big, use your talent for good. What else? What
yeah,
else gems do we have? One other thing I should
yeah,
say is that we've got a round of classes starting up June 27th. So if you're in town, check it out on interfaceschool.com. We've got open houses and a lot of other ways to come out and find out about it. So, yep, June 27th.
cool. If
Hmm.
you're in Omaha and you want to take advantage of that, certainly those are available. And again, I will post the link to the Interface School in the show notes, so you can head over there, as well as Shauna's Twitter and all that other stuff
Cool.
will be in our show notes. Shauna, hang tight for one sec. We'll do a little.
All
You
right.
have a few extra minutes.
Yeah, sure.
I need to do a few things to close this out, and then we'll go into a little bit of post show.
Okay.
And if you're listening live, we want to say thanks for coming out tonight to do that.
Thank
A
you.
great audience indeed. I'll remind everyone next week we got another really good show. So James and Emily from Classy Little Podcast are coming on, and I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of addicted to that podcast, Emily. I know you're out there listening. Now, just a reminder, not necessarily safe for work. There's a few, they enjoy what they say, but awesome and incredible. So James and the theme of their show, Classy Little Podcast, is cheers to and then something else. And so next week, cheers to gadgets. That's kind of what we're going to do. I'm actually going to try to track down a gadget wine. And Emily, maybe you could give me a few suggestions this week because I know for your show, you guys always try and find a wine and some cheese that kind of matches the theme of what you guys are talking about. Honestly, I'm not sure, Sean, I'm going to be able to find a wine.
Well, you know what, you're doing wine and code tomorrow, so
I
maybe you can
know.
ask
That's a
the
great
folks
idea. I'm
there. Yeah.
speaking at Wine and Code tomorrow, and
Hmm.
we'll have to ask for a wine because I got to get one to Uyghur. I got to get a bottle to Uyghur, and then I got to have a bottle here, and then hope
Hmm.
maybe we can get Emily and James to have one. But we another interview with those guys, and we're excited to have them on. That's on next week, and so you definitely want to come back for that as well. If just a reminder again, if you've got those, we'd love to see pictures of you using your tech superpowers. Send those to me, Jim@theaverageguy.tv. Track me down on Twitter at Jay Collison. A reminder that the AverageGuy.tv platform, remember, we are powered, our web and media hosting, both powered by Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people you know and trust. And actually, last week we said we were bringing back Cyber Frontiers as we were thinking about Christian. We didn't get that pulled off on Monday night. Christian and I are trying to get that done. He's now in the midst of finals, and it's kind of tough to get him when he's in finals. So we will get a Cyber Frontiers out to you, but if you're interested in web hosting along those lines, maplegrovepartners.com. We'll thank Roger out at WLMN Radio in Grafton, West Virginia, for streaming us live on the Shauna, you're actually in terrestrial radio right now. You didn't know that, but
Wow.
we stream live over the airwaves. You're a famous radio star now,
All right.
Grafton, West Virginia. So if you get any weird email or mail from Grafton, West Virginia, that's
It's
where it
your
comes
fault.
from.
I blame it
They're
on you.
listening to us on the radio right there. That's what they do. You can also listen to Home Gadget Geeks on the Android or iPhone app that we have. Both live and recorded versions are available for you. Only live on the iPhone. They will not allow apps to download yet, but we're hoping they'll get that open that up soon. To get access to the app, it's completely free. Easiest way to listen to Home Gadget Geeks, just head out to homegadgetgeeks.com, and we want to thank LastPass for their sponsorship of the mobile app, and Spreaker for putting that together for us. Well, just a reminder, if you're purchasing on Amazon, use that Amazon affiliate link, theaverageguy.tv/Amazon, and those dollars go into the Tech Scholarship Fund. That could have been a whole show. Actually, my Amazon account, Shonna, got breached this week.
Really?
And yeah, somebody went in and somehow they got the password and they got in and they bought $600 worth of gift cards.
Oh, wow.
And then spent them on software that they then returned. And that money, when they returned them, that money went back into my gift card account, and then it gave me time to shut the account off, so they got nothing. It was stupid. It was the dumbest, dumb criminal thing. Like, they could have done so much more, and they didn't. So
funny.
I lost nothing. I changed my Amazon password, shut those kinds of things down, and I wish Amazon had two-factor authentication. I'll be honest with you. That would be super
handy. They make it too easy to buy.
Well, yeah, they don't want any barriers to buying
That's
stuff.
True.
But if you are buying on Amazon, use theaverageguy.tv/Amazon, and we turn those dollars around into scholarship items. Shonna, what we do is I buy things for people to review. They get to keep it. We get an honest review from them. So that's what we do here at the Kiss. We're a gadget show. Although we didn't talk.
Wait. Can I get in on this?
Yeah. You could. I would buy you, so you would find something that you're interested in. I would buy it for you. You would review it, and you get to keep it.
I was just laughing because I was thinking about you buying me something that's like so commonplace. I'm just looking around my place. I'm sure there's something that I don't have here that people are like seriously showing.
Yeah, we'll have to think about it.
Like a toaster.
Well, that's not really what we're looking for. Now, if it was a smart toaster, maybe.
Yeah, see, there we go, smart
Or
toaster.
maybe like an Internet of Things device, or you were talking about like a security camera, maybe that.
You know what? That would be kind of cool. Just kind of get security set up here, because in this apartment complex, you can't have like an ADT system here. So if I were to have any sort of security setup, it would have to be my own little system.
Yeah. Well, actually, maybe we'll have to do that. One of the guys, PDT or PTD in chat, said Amazon does have two-factor authentication. So I did not know that. We'll have to do that. Mark had asked if we have a Canadian link. That's the averageguy.tv/AmazonCA. If you're purchasing from Canada, yeah, we do. We've got everything here.
Okay.
And so that's available. So, and then Emily says, kind of on the way out, toaster that plugs into a USB port on her computer. Ha ha ha. It's got to exist at some point. I'm not sure that toaster takes a lot of juice. I'm not sure the 5-volt the power that USB gives you. Maybe USB-C would do that for you, but no, I think you're gonna fry anything you plug into a USB port with your toaster.
Yeah.
So no, that's not going to happen. Shonna will bring you into the 21st century kicking and screaming.
Hey, thank you, everybody.
No. Great. Shonna, great to have you on, and I appreciate your time. Hang around for the post show. We'll remind everyone that we're out here live each Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out at theaverageguy.tv/live. If you join us in the chat room, we'll say thanks, and with that, we'll say good night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.